NASCAR just made the biggest gamble of its 2026 season. With only 6 races left before the playoff field is locked, officials announced a brand new Superspeedway package that chops the rear spoiler from 7 inches down to 4 inches, cuts horsepower from 510 to 465, and debuts with 0 practice at the regular season finale. If it works, Daytona International Speedway changes forever. If it fails, a playoff contender could be eliminated through no fault of their own. This is not a minor adjustment buried in a technical bulletin. This is NASCAR ripping up the Superspeedway playbook and daring the entire field to keep up. The announcement came down on Wednesday, July 15th, 2026, and it targets one race in particular. The Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona International Speedway on Saturday, August 29, with coverage starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC, HBO Max, Mistern Radio, and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. That race is not just any race, it is the regular season finale, the event that sets the 16-driver grid for the 2026 chase for the championship. Several drivers are expected to be fighting for that 16th and final spot, and now every single one of them has to do it in a car they have never raced before. So let us break down exactly what is changing, because the list is longer than most fans realize. The rear spoiler will be shortened from 7 inches to 4 inches, which is the same height used at intermediate tracks like Kansas Speedway and Charlotte Motor Speedway. Alongside that, teams will run wide splitter stuffers, which are also borrowed directly from the current intermediate package. Under the hood, the tapered spacer on the engine will be reduced to 27/32 of an inch, dropping horsepower from around 510 down to 465 to adjust for the reduced downforce. NASCAR is also introducing new spoiler braces, and the spoiler deflection device has been redesigned to accommodate the 4-inch spoiler. One thing that is not changing is safety. All safety equipment, including the A-post flap, remains exactly the same as the current Superspeedway package. Now here is where the numbers get interesting. NASCAR officials anticipate single car runs to be approximately 2 to 3 miles per hour faster than the current package, but cars in a pack are expected to run about the same speeds. That is completely intentional. Cars get faster alone, but the pack does not turn into a rocket ship. And the most important projection of all comes from NASCAR's dynamic passing maneuver computational fluid dynamics data, which indicates that completing a pass with a 5-mile-per-hour run on another car is far more likely with the new package. There is one major caveat, though, currently. This update is for the Cup Series Daytona race only. There is one more Superspeedway race this year at Talladega Superspeedway on October 25, right in the middle of the chase, and the revised specs will run there as well unless NASCAR sees something unintended through the Daytona event. To understand why NASCAR would take a risk this big, you have to understand the problem it is trying to solve. For years, Superspeedway racing at Daytona International Speedway and Talladega Superspeedway has developed a reputation, and not always a good one. Fans call it fuel mileage chess. Drivers ride around, save gas, save tires, and wait to make one move in the final 10 laps. It is calculated. It is smart. And for a lot of fans, it is boring. 3-time Daytona 500 champion Denny Hamlin described exactly what it feels like from behind the wheel. I can tell you from the driver's seat what happens for us is that we spend the entire race fuel mileage saving all for that last pit stop, Hamlin said. We basically know you have to be in the top 4 inside that last fuel window unless there's a big wreck to have a shot at winning. I mean, if you come out 10th, you are log-jammed, you're not going anywhere. The root of the problem is aerodynamic drag. The current package creates so much drag that once a driver gets to the front, he is essentially untouchable. Former crew chief Steve Letarte explained it perfectly. When I watch Superspeedway racing currently, it seems like the leader is basically at terminal velocity, Letarte said. It's very easy to get a run on the leader and very hard to do anything with it. You pull out of line, you hit this wall of air, and for that reason they're just kind of stuck too wide around the bottom. The result is two wide freight trains running the same speed, no third lane forming, and stagnant racing at the sport's most famous venues. And here is the key insight the working group landed on. Fuel saving is not the disease. It is the symptom. Drivers save fuel because track position is the only currency that matters when passing is nearly impossible. That is the core problem NASCAR is targeting, not speed. Passing, now let us talk about who actually built this change, because this was not some executive memo handed down from a boardroom. A working group in NASCAR has been discussing potential changes to the Superspeedway rules since the spring Talladega Superspeedway race. Denny Hamlin, the driver of the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota and co-owner of 2311 Racing, was in the room. So was John Probst, the president of NASCAR Event Management, and the urgency behind it traces straight to the top of the sport. "We want to react quickly," Probst said. "You know, Steve O'Donnell, our new CEO, is on us all the time to get the feedback and react on the feedback as quick as we can. And I think that working with Denny and the working group there, we made changes that we felt had the highest potential to make a big change, but with the lowest risk as well." Probst also explained why NASCAR did not go even further with the package. "We didn't pull every lever that we could because some of those would frankly require us to get 15 cars down to Daytona and try some more radical stuff. We're not against doing that, but that certainly would affect the timing in which you unroll that level of a change for." He added that where the group landed is the biggest change they feel they can make without doing a full-blown test. And this fits a much larger pattern. Since the next-gen car arrived, NASCAR has made horsepower adjustments on the short tracks and road courses to make those race better. And a separate change was made to stage lengths at Talladega Superspeedway in the spring to reduce the incentive to save fuel. The Superspeedways were simply the last domino to fall. So what is the model NASCAR is chasing? According to Denny Hamlin, it is not some radical new concept. It is Atlanta. "What we're essentially trying to recreate is Atlanta at Daytona and Talladega," Hamlin said. "It happens organically at Atlanta, the space between the cars, because the cars themselves are grip limited and the fuel mileage racing really doesn't happen because you have to be on offense constantly. If you watch the pack, there is no saving. Guys are dicing it up the entire race." Hamlin even put a number on the expected improvement. "This is our first bite of the apple at this, so what I believe is that from the numbers that I've seen, it's going to be roughly a 33% gain in the right direction." Many fans have asked why Atlanta races so differently in the first place. And the answer comes down to the track itself. Echo Park Speedway near Atlanta is a 1.5-mile track, while Daytona International Speedway measures 2.5 miles and Talladega Superspeedway stretches to 2.66 miles. The shorter length, the surface, and the banking at Atlanta make the cars naturally grip limited, which spreads the field out organically. Latarte summarized the bigger goal behind copying that formula. "I think what I see currently as our biggest track position races of the year are the Superspeedways. That's never been their signature," he said. "If the aero changes can allow teams to overtake to have faster cars and slower cars, I think it could open up the field a little bit." Now for the part that has the garage buzzing. The timing. This new package debuts in the final regular season race, the exact moment the sport needs peak entertainment because the 16-driver playoff field gets locked in right after the checkered flag falls. And there will not be a test before the Daytona race. Cup Series teams will not have practice that weekend with the new package either, because the norm on Superspeedway weekends is only to consist of qualifying. That means the drivers will first experience this package in the draft once the green flag flies, with playoff spots hanging in the balance. But Latarte actually argues this is the correct cycle. You have to remember, there's no more win and you're in. The chase is about accumulating points. "You've had 25 other races to score enough points," he said. "I think Daytona in August becomes a great testbed for then the Great American Race in February." His point is simple. Debuting an unknown package at Talladega Superspeedway inside the chase itself would be far worse. So what are the possible outcomes? Best case scenario, the new package works almost exactly as designed. Drivers race hard the entire race, fuel saving disappears, the racing looks more like Atlanta than the old pack-style Daytona show, and NASCAR immediately signals that this becomes the new standard for both Daytona International Speedway and Talladega Superspeedway going into next season. Worst case scenario, the reduced drag creates unpredictable runs in the draft. Leads to a chain reaction wreck that takes out multiple playoff hopefuls, and NASCAR is forced to defend introducing an untested package at the worst possible moment of the year. Superspeedway racing is already the most unpredictable high wreck style in the sport, and adding energy to that equation carries real consequences. Even John Probst himself is keeping expectations measured. I don't want to make bold claims, I think this should mitigate it. For sure, Probst said of fuel saving. The fuel mileage thing is a tool in their toolbox now that I don't think you'll ever get rid of. It won't eliminate it, but it should certainly take it from a hot topic in the race to something that is just a mention. That honesty matters, because it tells you NASCAR is not promising a miracle. It is promising progress. Here is where I land on it. This is a necessary risk. The problem was real, the drivers themselves demanded the fix, and waiting until 2027 would have meant another Daytona 500 defined by fuel-saving formation laps instead of actual racing. Yes, the timing is aggressive. But bold problems require bold answers, and either way. August 29 just became one of the most important non-playoff races on the entire calendar. So here is the real question for you. Is this NASCAR finally fixing a problem that has plagued superspeedway racing for years, or is this a risky experiment dropped in at the worst possible time? Drop your prediction in the comments. Genius move or reckless gamble? And if you want the real breakdown before every playoff race this season, make sure you subscribe because we are just getting started.